Did you know that behind the glitz and glamour of old Hollywood, some of the biggest stars were secretly wild party animals? From extravagant soirees to shocking behavior, the stars of old Hollywood didn't just light up the silver screen. They knew how to throw a party. But behind the velvet curtains and diamond-studded gowns, some of the most iconic names in Hollywood history had reputations for their outrageous party habits. In this video, we're diving deep into the wild side of old Hollywood, revealing the jaw-dropping stories you won't believe about your favorite stars. Ready for a peek into the decadence that defined the golden age of film? Let's get started. The Jazz Age and the birth of Hollywood's wild parties. To truly grasp the wild parties of old Hollywood, we need to go back to the roaring 1920s, a time when the film industry was on the rise, and Hollywood was becoming the epicenter of entertainment. This was the Jazz Age, an era of change, freedom, and extravagance. The world was embracing new forms of music, dance, and fashion, and Hollywood was right at the heart of it. As silent films grew in popularity, movie studios became powerful empires, attracting not only the brightest stars in the industry, but also a wave of thrill-seekers eager to bask in the wealth and glamour that Tinseltown had to offer. The newfound wealth and fame that came with Hollywood stardom opened doors to a lifestyle filled with indulgence. Celebrities lived in massive estates or luxurious hotels, where extravagant parties were the norm. Alcohol, despite prohibition, flowed freely and jazz music filled the air, creating a heady atmosphere of excess. These parties were more than just celebrations, they were symbols of rebellion, where the rules of society were tossed aside and the stars enjoyed their fame without any restraint. It was a time of unbridled hedonism that would go on to shape the legend of old Hollywood, the unrestrained revelry of the golden age. By the time the 1930s rolled around, old Hollywood had fully cemented its place as the entertainment capital of the world. This is when the parties truly escalated, and the stars became known for their hedonistic lifestyles. The money was endless, the clubs were exclusive, and the desire for excess seemed unquenchable. Hollywood had become a world of its own, with a glamorous image on the surface, but a darker, wilder side lurking just beneath. The public only saw the polished red carpets and movie premieres, but behind closed doors, the real action was happening. Stars threw lavish bashes where nothing was off limits. Whether at private mansions, top hotels, or exclusive clubs, these parties were legendary for their wildness. Alcohol flowed freely, and even though prohibition was in full swing, the wealthy elite found ways to get their hands on it. Jazz music played late into the night, with guests dancing and celebrating until dawn. The stars were the center of attention, living lives of excess and pushing the boundaries of acceptable behavior. These revelries were not just for fun. They were part of Hollywood's attempt to break away from the constraints of society and live in a world where anything could happen. For the stars, the party never seemed to end, and the more shocking and outrageous, the better. 1. The legendary Black Dahlia Party. One of the darkest and most notorious parties in Hollywood history took place in the 1940s, and it's forever tied to the mystery of Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia. Short was a young actress whose gruesome murder remains unsolved to this day. But before her tragic end, she was reportedly seen at a party hosted by William Randolph Hearst, one of Hollywood's most powerful figures at the time. While the details surrounding the event are shrouded in secrecy, the party was said to be filled with alcohol, flirtation, and illicit behavior, an environment that was common among the Hollywood elite during that era. Short was seen mingling with some of the biggest stars, adding to her mystique and eventual tragedy. The link between the Black Dahlia murder and this infamous party forever sealed its place in Hollywood lore, turning what was meant to be an extravagant celebration into a symbol of Hollywood's darker side. The tragic events that followed made this party an enduring part of the Black Dahlia mystery, making it impossible to separate the two in the minds of Hollywood fans. Did the wild behavior at that party have anything to do with Short's horrifying fate? Some still wonder to this day. 2. Errol Flynn's Wild Gatherings. Errol Flynn, the infamous actor best known for his roles as dashing heroes in films like Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood, was equally famous for his out-of-control parties. These wild gatherings, often held at his luxurious estate, were the epitome of Hollywood excess. Flynn didn't just attend these parties, He was the ringleader, and his charisma and bad boy charm attracted Hollywood elites and curious outsiders alike. Alcohol flowed freely, and the atmosphere was one of absolute indulgence. There was no shortage of debauchery, with guests partaking in all kinds of wild behavior, from heavy drinking to more illicit activities. Flynn's reputation as a party king only grew, but it was his scandals, like legal troubles and allegations of sexual assault, that added fuel to his wild persona. These scandals weren't just personal, they became intertwined with his party life, making his gatherings infamous not just for the fun, but for the chaos they brought. Flynn's larger-than-life lifestyle eventually caught up with him, leaving behind a legacy as a troubled star whose private life was as reckless as the adventures he portrayed on screen. How could such a charming actor's real life turn so dark? 3. Charlie Chaplin's Forbidden Parties. Charlie Chaplin, the legendary star of silent film comedy, was a genius at making audiences laugh, but behind the camera, his personal life was anything but funny. Known for his mastery of slapstick humor, Chaplin's private world was filled with secretive, extravagant parties that shocked Hollywood insiders. These gatherings, often thrown without the knowledge of his wives, were full of illicit activities, including heavy drinking, wild behavior, and drug use. Chaplin's relationships with much younger women sparked gossip and scandal, particularly his controversial sexual behavior. His personal life was a tangled web of affairs, divorces, and public scandals, making him the subject of constant scrutiny. Chaplin's wild parties, combined with his complicated relationships, were a huge part of the Hollywood gossip mill, and as his career progressed, his personal life started to overshadow his professional achievements. The public's disillusionment with his behavior eventually led to his loss of favor, and his wild partying habits became a symbol of his fall from grace. Could this reckless lifestyle have played a part in Chaplin's controversial image? It's a question many in Hollywood still debate. The cult of excess, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Before the term rock and roll was even coined, old Hollywood stars were already diving headfirst into a world of excess. While the full explosion of drug culture didn't hit Hollywood until the 1960s and 1970s, the seeds of indulgence were sown much earlier. The 1930s and 1940s saw some of Hollywood's brightest stars dabbling in mind-altering substances long before the counterculture movement became mainstream. Alcohol was the most common indulgence, but many stars also experimented with opiates and early forms of amphetamines to keep up with the grueling demands of their careers and their lavish lifestyles. The glamorous world of Tinseltown may have appeared like a dream, but behind closed doors it was often a nightmare of addiction and excess. Stars like Judy Garland, who struggled with pills to stay thin and manage her hectic schedule, embodied this era's dangerous relationship with drugs. Some actors, driven by the constant pressure of fame, sought to numb themselves or escape into a state of altered reality. These habits were often kept secret, but whispers of their indulgence spread, adding an air of mystery and danger to the Hollywood elite. 4. Clark Gable and Carole Lombard, the king and queen of Hollywood's party scene. Clark Gable and Carole Lombard were more than just Hollywood's golden couple. They were the kings and queens of the party scene, living life on their wild terms. Gable, often called the King of Hollywood, and Lombard, known for her vivacious personality and rebellious spirit, was the epitome of glamour and chaos. Their extravagant parties were the stuff of legends, filled with marathon drinking sessions, loud laughter, and unpredictable antics. Gable was often the life of the party, leading his friends into nights filled with alcohol, gambling, and indulgence. Lombard, equally free-spirited, was just as wild, matching her husband drink for drink and laugh for laugh. Together they became Hollywood's ultimate party animals, a couple who threw caution to the wind at every turn. These parties weren't just about fun, they were about the recklessness and excess that defined their lives. Hollywood's elite flocked to their gatherings, eager to partake in the thrills of fame, fortune, and the indulgent lifestyle that Gable and Lombard seemed to have mastered. But their reign as the party royalty was tragically cut short. In 1942, Lombard died in a plane crash, leaving Gable devastated and unable to recover from the loss. How could the brightest star in Hollywood fade so suddenly? Gable's life was never the same after Lombard's death, and their legacy as Hollywood's wildest couple remained intact. 5. Judy Garland, the dark side of stardom. Judy Garland's career was built on her immense talent, but beneath the glitz and glamour, she struggled with personal demons that were fueled by Hollywood's relentless pressures. Her party habits became a way to cope with the overwhelming stress of stardom. Garland's wild gatherings were filled with alcohol, pills, and an ever-present need for approval, often drawing in fellow stars like Mickey Rooney. These parties became infamous for their wild, over-the-top nature, a reflection of the internal chaos Garland faced. Behind the dazzling performances, the pressures of maintaining an image took a heavy toll, leading to her substance abuse problems. As Garland's struggles with addiction deepened, so did her reliance on these parties to numb her pain. The very thing that made her a beloved star also set the stage for her tragic downfall. At just 47 years old, Garland's life ended far too soon, a heartbreaking reminder of how the indulgence and excess of Hollywood could consume even the brightest stars. Her story serves as a cautionary tale, showing how a glamorous life could hide the destructive forces lurking beneath the surface. What could have been if Garland had found peace before it was too late? 6. Marlene Dietrich's exclusive parties. Marlene Dietrich was known for her sultry performances and fearless approach to fame, but her private life was just as bold and intriguing. Dietrich's parties were some of the most exclusive and wild in Hollywood, attracting influential figures and fellow stars from all corners of the entertainment world. These gatherings were filled with jazz music, expensive cocktails, and conversations that often skirted the edge of Hollywood's darkest secrets. But Dietrich's gatherings weren't just about excess, they were about pushing boundaries. A strong advocate for independence, Dietrich's parties broke more than one taboo. She was infamous for her flirtations with both men and women, challenging the era's strict expectations of gender and sexuality. At a time when such behavior was scandalous, she made no effort to hide her defiance of societal norms. These parties became more than just a social scene. They were a stage for Dietrich to express her freedom and challenge the rigid roles assigned to women in Hollywood. Even as her career progressed and her star power grew, her wild parties and complex love affairs would forever remain a part of her enigmatic legacy. How much did Dietrich's private rebellions shape her public image as a fierce icon of independence? Hollywood's partying legacy. The wild party habits of old Hollywood didn't just shape the lives of the stars, they also helped define the mythology of Hollywood itself, a place where excess was the rule and nothing was too outrageous. The parties were more than just a way to unwind. They became symbolic of the Hollywood lifestyle. Whether it was the allure of fame, the pressures of public life, or the quest for constant excitement, partying became a form of escape, and for some, an addiction. For many stars, these wild behaviors were a coping mechanism for the immense stress and pressure of their careers. But for others, it was simply part of the deal, an unavoidable part of being in the limelight. The lines between work and play were often blurred, and the partying became so deeply embedded in Hollywood culture that it was often seen as a rite of passage for new stars. Alcohol, drugs, and scandalous affairs weren't just the result of fame, they became the very essence of what it meant to live as a Hollywood elite. While many stars of this era eventually fell from grace due to their reckless partying, their stories live on, reminding us of the dangers of living in a world where indulgence reigns. Even today, as Hollywood has evolved, the legacy of these wild parties endures. The stars of old Hollywood serve as a cautionary tale, showing how fame and fortune can collide with unchecked excess. The party may have stopped, but the stories of Hollywood's wildest moments are far from over. And so the wild parties of old Hollywood remind us that fame and fortune don't always lead to happiness. But what happened to those stars after their partying days came to an end? Some faded into obscurity, while others faced shocking downfalls. Curious to know more about the dark side of Hollywood's golden age? You won't want to miss what's coming next. If you loved uncovering these jaw-dropping secrets, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more untold stories.